All my life, my family made one thing painfully clear. I was never the child they were watching. I was the one they overlooked, underestimated, and pushed to the side while they poured everything into someone else. But the day I stopped staying silent and revealed what I'd really become, their entire version of me shattered in an instant. My name is Anna Sanchez. I'm 28 years old, and for as long as I can remember, my family has treated me like background noise in our house just outside Milwaukee. I was the responsible one, the practical one, the one who would be fine no matter what. What that really meant was simple. They never felt the need to pay attention to me. All the praise, all the excitement, all the proud parent speeches were reserved for my older brother. I got the occasional, "That's nice, honey," tossed over a shoulder while my parents refreshed the family group chat for updates on his newest success. By the time I was old enough to notice the pattern, it was already deeply ingrained. In our house, love came with a ranking system, and I was never in first place. Growing up, I brought home science fair ribbons and straight A's in biology, while my brother scored winning goals on the soccer field and had his name announced over the loudspeaker. Guess whose photos got framed on the wall? My mom used to call me low maintenance like it was a compliment while adjusting my brother's tie before one of his award ceremonies. When I got into a competitive nursing program on scholarship, my dad smiled and said, "That's great, honey. Nurses are helpful," then immediately turned to my brother and asked how his business classes were going. That was my role. Useful, dependable, forgettable. But being ignored taught me how to build a life without applause. I learned to keep my head down and work harder than everyone else. Year after year, I watched my brother get the new car, the college fund, the proud hugs, while I figured things out on my own. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was stronger for it. Yet deep down, that constant feeling of being invisible started to burn. Growing up in our house, just outside Milwaukee, meant Kenneth was the sun and the rest of us orbited around him. He was 4 years older, and every milestone came with fanfare, while mine earned only a quiet nod. By high school, the pattern was set in stone. Kenneth got the new laptop and the car on his 16th birthday. I took the bus until I saved for my own. When college acceptances arrived, I showed my scholarship letter at dinner. Mom smiled, said, "That's wonderful, honey," then asked Kenneth how his internship interview went. I folded the letter away and never brought it up again. I graduated with honors, passed my boards on the first try, and started night shifts at the big hospital in downtown Milwaukee. The job was brutal. 12 hours of chaos, blood codes, families crying in the hallways. But it gave me purpose that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. For years, I kept my head down, lived in a small apartment near the hospital, and replied with thumbs up emojis while the group chat filled with Kenneth's promotions and bonuses. Then one night, during a rare quiet stretch between patients, I started noticing how much time the ER team wasted trying to figure out who was where and what needed doing next. Charts got lost in handoffs, nurses hunted for doctors, lives hung on seconds, and the system was letting them slip. I couldn't unsee it. So I started jotting ideas on the back of printouts during breaks, a shared real-time board, instant alerts, one screen that showed everything. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this could actually save time, maybe even lives. I didn't tell my family. To them, I was still Anna, the nurse, steady and boring. Kenneth was the one with the future. I kept the sketches in a notebook under my bed and went back to work the next night like nothing had changed. But something had. For the first time, I had a project that was mine alone, and I wasn't going to let anyone dismiss it. After those first sketches, I reached out to Avery Roberts, a friend from nursing school who had switched to software development. She answered the same day. I explained the problem I saw every shift, and she said, Send me what you have. Let's build this. We called it MediSync, a real-time platform for emergency departments showing staff locations, patient status, pending tests, everything updated instantly. At first, it was ugly. Basic wireframes, clunky prototypes, bugs everywhere. But when it worked, even for a minute, it felt like proof this wasn't just a daydream. I kept working nights while Avery handled the tech. I'd finish a 12-hour shift at dawn, sleep, 4 hours, chug coffee, and jump on calls with her. My family knew nothing. In the group chat, they asked if I was still doing those late nights. I said yes and left it there while Kenneth closed big sales deals and Mom sent photos of him in a suit. One evening, after a brutal shift, I sat in my car, staring at the prototype on my phone. It worked. Nurses could see doctor availability in real time. Doctors could pull up patient history without digging through files. I texted Avery. "We've got something here," she replied with fire emojis. The real breakthrough came when a charge nurse on my floor saw an early demo and said, if this actually works, it could change everything down here. That kept me going through a year of late nights and caffeine. I paid for cloud hosting out of my own pocket. We pitched to local hospitals, got rejections, kept refining. Every no made us sharper. I wasn't chasing applause. I was chasing a tool that could make the chaos I lived in every night just a little less deadly. While I was grinding through those endless shifts and prototype fixes, Kenneth's life kept moving up. He landed a sales manager role at a mid-sized tech firm, got the salary bump company car expense account. My parents hosted a dinner to celebrate. Dad toasted to our rising star. Kenneth grinned and talked about closing six-figure deals. Around the same time, he married Sophia Collins, sharp, kind, working in marketing. At the wedding, Sophia hugged me and whispered, "You're doing amazing things too, Anna. Don't let them make you feel small." I smiled and didn't say more. A few months later, I finally asked for help. MediSync needed a modest line of credit, so Avery and I could go full-time. I explained it clearly to Dad over coffee. Real hospitals, interested lives on the line. He listened for maybe 90 seconds, then leaned back. "Sweetheart, apps come and go. Nursing is stable. Don't risk it." Mom nodded. I thanked them, left, and drove straight to my next shift. Sophia heard about it later and pulled me aside at a family barbecue. I told him he should have listened, she said quietly. Kenneth overheard and laughed it off. "Come on, Soph, it's just Anna's little side project." I stopped asking after that. We bootstrapped harder. I took extra shifts. Avery picked up freelance coding. Every time exhaustion hit, I remembered that charge nurse's face and kept going. Months later, everything shifted in one phone call. I was in the staff lounge at 3 a.m. when my phone lit up, 3 missed calls from Avery, one text in all caps, "Call me now." We got it. I stepped into a supply closet and dialed. She picked up, laughing and crying at the same time. A large Midwest hospital system had greenlit a full pilot rollout. On top of that, a healthcare software company in Chicago had come in with an acquisition offer. When Avery read the number, my legs gave out. $170 million. The next weeks were a blur of lawyers' ND. As due diligence calls squeezed between shifts, I reviewed contracts at sunrise and signed pages in hospital parking lots. The wire transfer hit on a Tuesday morning. Even after taxes and fees, the number left in my account was more than my entire family had ever seen combined. I stared at the banking app in my car, convinced it would vanish. Then I went back inside and finished my shift. Patients still needed IVs and comfort. Money didn't change that. Sophia found out by accident and texted me privately, "Is this real? I'm so proud of you." I thanked her and asked her to keep it quiet. I still drove the same old car, lived in the same apartment, wore the same scrubs. No one noticed anything different because I didn't change a thing on the surface. But inside, something settled. I had proof I could build something massive without anyone's help or approval. The week before Christmas, Mom called. We're doing a nice dinner this year. Kenneth just closed his biggest quarter ever. Promotion's official. You can make it right. Not for the holidays, for Kenneth's promotion. I said yes and kept working my shifts like normal. I decided I wouldn't show up in new clothes or a fancy car. I'd walk in exactly as I always had. Avery texted the day before. Whatever happens, remember, they don't get to define what you've done. You do. Christmas Day was cold and gray in Milwaukee. I parked at the curb outside the house I grew up in, took a breath, and walked up the steps. Inside smelled like pine and turkey. Mom hugged me quick. You made it. You look exhausted. Still those crazy nights, Kenneth was already in the living room, telling a story about sealing a deal with a major client. Dad sat forward, locked in. Sophia sat beside him, smiling politely. Kenneth spotted me. Hey, sis, they finally let you out of the ER dungeon. The table chuckled when I replied. They stopped chaining us to beds a while back. Dinner was served. Seating said everything. Kenneth in the middle, Mom and Dad on either side, Sophia next to him, me. At the far end, near the extra chairs, Dad raised his glass. To Kenneth, to his promotion, his hard work, his future. Couldn't be prouder. Mom echoed to Kenneth, our shining light. I lifted my glass too. I wanted them comfortable, deep in the routine they knew so well. Then Kenneth turned to me with that familiar smirk. So Anna, still pulling doubles and eating vending machine dinners, maybe one day I can hook you up with something at my company. The table chuckled. Same old joke, same fake generosity. I set my fork down carefully. Actually, I sold my company. Laughter faded in pieces. Kenneth frowned. You what I sold MediSync, the ER coordination platform I built with Avery. Deal closed 3 weeks ago. He laughed, relieved, thinking it was a joke. Okay, come on. How much did your little hobby sell for? I met his eyes. $170 million. Silence hit the room like a drop tray. Mom went pale. Dad's fork clattered on his plate. Sophia's hand froze mid-reach. Kenneth laughed again louder. Stop. Seriously. I'm serious, I said. A Chicago healthcare software company acquired it. Full team transition. I have a consulting role and equity in the parent company. You're joking, Kenneth said. If I were, you'd have asked questions long before now. But you never did. Mom stared. Anna, this isn't funny. I'm not joking. Dad leaned forward slowly. If this is true, why didn't you tell us? I almost smiled. Tell you, like when I asked for a small line of credit and you told me apps were a fad, like when I tried explaining what MediSync did, and the conversation went right back to Kenneth's bonus. The shouting started right after. Kenneth pushed his chair back hard. So you dropped this bomb to ruin my night, to make me look stupid in front of my wife and parents. I looked straight at him. If my success feels like an attack, that says more about this table than it does about me. Sophia spoke quietly. Kenneth, she's telling the truth. I knew about the deal weeks ago. I told you to ask her about it. He turned to her stunned. Mom started crying softly. We didn't know it was this big, because you never stayed on the phone long enough to hear, I said. Dad rubbed his face. So what now? You just sit on this fortune and cut us out. I didn't come for validation, I said. I came to tell the truth, to stop pretending I'm okay being invisible. Kenneth's voice cracked. You always played the quiet victim card. I never wanted the spotlight, I replied. I just wanted space to exist without being compared every single day. Mom reached for my hand. Anna, please. We're sorry. We can fix this. I stepped back. Sorry isn't enough anymore. I gave you 28 years. Time was never the problem. I walked toward the hallway past the Christmas tree, past the stockings with Kenneth's name biggest, past the photos where he stood front and center, and I was always off to the side. Kenneth followed me to the door. "You can't just leave like this. Watch me." He stared, anger mixing with fear. "My boss follows Dad on social. If this gets out, your biggest fear is looking bad," I said. "Mine used to be disappearing in my own family. We're not the same." Mom and Dad appeared behind him. Mom was crying harder now. "We're trying to understand." "No," I said. "You're trying to catch up after I already finished the race." Dad's voice dropped. "What do you want from us?" I thought for a second. "I want different terms. No more comparisons. No more treating my work like a hobby. And if you want any part of my life going forward, it starts with real change. Not just words tonight." Kenneth scoffed. "Change for what?" "Being successful." "For stepping on me to feel taller," I said. He flinched. I grabbed my coat. Mom reached out, then stopped. "We'll call you." "Take your time," I said. "Just don't call to ask for anything." Then I walked out into the cold Milwaukee night. I didn't look back. The drive home was quiet. No tears, no second thoughts, just clean air and the sound of tires on wet pavement. I got to my apartment, locked the door, and blocked every family number on my phone. Then I sat on the couch and let out a long breath I'd been holding for years. The next weeks were strange. No group chat pings, no fake check-ins, just silence, the kind that used to scare me. Now it felt like space. I poured everything into the transition with the acquiring company. Strategy meetings, hospital walkthroughs where staff thanked me for making their shifts easier. I started therapy too, not because I was broken, but because I was tired of carrying old weight into new rooms. 6 months passed. Kenneth's glow faded fast. Overconfident, after years of easy wins, he got careless with clients' missed deadlines, lost accounts. His firm let him go. Sophia moved out shortly after. She'd had enough of the family dynamic that kept putting her husband on a pedestal he couldn't maintain anymore. Mom and Dad felt the ripple. Without Kenneth's success to prop them up, they had to sell the house they'd lived in for 30 years and downsize to a condo. They tried reaching out through mutual friends. I didn't respond. I moved to California, new city, new hospital, consulting role, new life, where no one knew my last name or expected me to stay small. I kept the same work ethic, the same quiet focus. But now it was for me. Sophia reached out once privately. "I'm sorry for how things went. You deserved better." I thanked her and wished her well. We haven't spoken since. There were no big apologies, no tearful reunions. No one showed up at my door with flowers and regret. And that was fine, because the moment I walked out of that house on Christmas Day, I stopped waiting for them to see me. I saw myself clearly for the first time, capable, valuable, whole, without anyone else's permission. Looking back, family favoritism doesn't just create distance. It creates damage that lasts. It teaches one child they're never enough, and another their worth depends on staying on top. When the pedestal cracks, everything falls. Kenneth lost his job because he'd built his identity on being the chosen one. Sophia left because she refused to keep playing along. Mom and Dad downsized because they'd spent years investing in one child's future instead of building stability for themselves. I didn't rescue them. I didn't loan money or soften the consequences. They made choices over decades. I made one choice that night, to stop paying the price for their blindness. Therapy helped me see it plainly. When a family crowns a golden child, they don't just hurt the overlooked one. They set up the chosen one for failure the moment the spotlight shifts. I don't hate them. I don't wish them ill. I just don't carry their version of me anymore. I live in a bright apartment near the ocean now. I consult for hospitals across the state. MediSync is in use in dozens of ERs, saving minutes that turn into lives. I work hard, but I rest too. I have friends who ask real questions about my day. No one compares me to anyone else. Sometimes I think about that Christmas dinner, the clatter of the fork, the silence that followed my words, the way the room changed in seconds. It wasn't revenge, it was clarity. Your worth was never theirs to assign, it was always yours. The day I stopped waiting for my family to notice it, I finally claimed it for myself. And once you do that, no one can take it away.